Stop drafting those running backs that have no upside and no ability to make it into your starting lineup. I'm talking about 5 guys late in your drafts that have the ability to outperform their ADP and win leagues in fantasy football. These are my 5 favorite sleeper running backs headed into 2023 fantasy football. My first guy that I love drafting in the late rounds, getting him past round 7, is Rachaad White of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. A lot of people will tell you that Rachaad White has no upside on a bad team in a bad offense in Tampa Bay, but I'm not here to buy that. Last year, this Buccaneers offense didn't really look as great as some people think it did. Even though Tom Brady, one of, if not the greatest quarterback of all time, this offense still struggled pretty mightily. Obviously, Baker Mayfield is going to be a downgrade at the quarterback position. This offense won't be nearly the same, but I don't think that's going to affect White that much this year, considering White is such a great pass-catching option out of the backfield. Rachaad White was arguably the best pass catcher coming out in his draft class just 1 season ago, and we really saw that come to fruition in the 2022 season. While in a backup role for the entire year, outside of the 1 game that Leonard Fournette missed, Rachaad White still was able to manage the 12th most running back targets in the entire National Football League. Not only was he getting peppered with targets while in the game, he also had an 86% catch rate, which is second among all running backs. So when he's getting the targets, he is catching the ball and making good use of them in fantasy. So even if you think Tampa Bay is going to be a struggling offense this next year, he's still going to get all the passing down work, which we know, especially in PPR leagues, is where a lot of fantasy volume comes from in the later rounds. He's not going to be a 300 carry guy in this offense, and the touchdown upside isn't really there in Tampa Bay. But as long as he has a consistent floor with these reception totals, I don't see why Rachaad White should be going in round 8 and later in most drafts. In the sole game he started last year, White was able to carry the ball 14 times and garner 9 targets through the air. So if White's seeing about 20 touches a game in this offense this year with very little running back competition behind him, while the ceiling might not be a top 5 in fantasy this year, given the offense and the touchdown equity he's going to see, he's going to be a top 24 running back in this offense if he gets the workload that we expect. Tampa Bay offensive line ranks about middle of the pack according to PFF this upcoming year. So a decent offensive line he's running behind. Got a couple guys coming back healthy that missed last season. And with Baker Mayfield at quarterback, I'm not sure how much this offense is going to want to throw the ball deep downfield to Mike Evans. I think there's going to be a more reliance on the underneath stuff with Chris Godwin and Rachaad White out of the backfield. Baker Mayfield last season and the year prior is targeting the running back position the second highest rate in the entire league. Not only is Baker Mayfield looking for the running back position, but Rachaad White, a 20% target rate. With this receiving capability in these PPR leagues, Rachaad White will smash his current average draft position. And even in half PPR leagues, I'm still drafting White based on the 3-down load we should see, with the only guys behind him, Chase Edmonds, who completely busted in Miami last year, and an undrafted rookie free agent running back they bring. So while we might not see too many touchdowns from Rachaad White, I think the receptions and targets out of the backfield will be enough to carry him to a top 24 finish in fantasy, while you can get him outside the top 25 running backs off the board. So Rachaad White is definitely one of my favorite sleepers in fantasy at the running back position late. My second running back sleeper is going to be Brian Robinson. Now, I'll be the first to admit, early on in the offseason, I was all over Antonio Gibson, given the share in the receiving game, like we talked about with White, that we expect him to get in this Washington offense. With J.D. McKissic missing, Gibson is going to take over that receiving down load on 3rd down. But diving deeper into it, I see Brian Robinson is going to carry all the 1st and 2nd down work and the goal line work, which is where we want to be betting on in fantasy at the running back position. No, Robinson, even after coming off that unfortunate injury gunshot prior to the start of the season, after the first week of coming back, he was still able to get 17 carries per game in this Washington offense. Brian Robinson currently going after round 8 in most drafts. You're telling me a guy who saw 17 carries in his rookie season after getting shot in the preseason is going in round 8 on an offense, while not the very best in the league, definitely has some options with Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson on the outside. From a sheer volume standpoint, Brian Robinson is definitely a guy I am investing in at his current price. We don't see why this workload shouldn't continue into 2023. Last season, the Commanders were actually the 4th most run-heavy team in the entire league, with questions at the quarterback position with Taylor Heineke last year, and now Sam Howell entering the season as the projected starter. This team is going to rely on that run game pretty heavily with Brian Robinson and Antonio Gibson in that receiving role. So this late in draft, I'm getting a guy who has guaranteed volume. I have no problem slamming that in my drafts. If I haven't gotten stable running backs early in my draft, decided to go wide receiver. Brian Robinson with that volume, definitely a guy I'm looking at. Third running back, I'm looking late in drafts. A very similar range to these other two guys, James Cook of the Buffalo Bills. Now, not only am I liking James Cook, I also like Damian Harris where he's going in drafts, getting him much later. But let's talk about James Cook. Quick scat back for the Buffalo Bills. While in their preseason games, he's getting all of the reps with the starting unit. While I do have to pump the brakes on Cook, a 190-pound back in an offense led by Josh Allen, we know who's going to garner a lot of the workload inside the 5-yard line in that red zone territory. He's going to be looking to scramble into the end zone. That's going to limit the upside for James Cook, along with Damian Harris also being a great goal line back. So I don't expect Cook to have many touchdowns this year, but Cook looks to be the guy on the field when Buffalo is moving the ball down the field. In an offense like the Bills have, led by Josh Allen, we know it's going to be very productive with Steph Diggs, Gabe Davis. This is a team that let Devin Singletary walk in free agency because they're so confident in what they have in James Cook and Damian Harris. Last season, Singletary actually was given 17 carries inside the 10-yard line, so there's still very valuable carries up for grabs in this Buffalo offense. Not everything runs through Josh Allen, but with a dangerous weapon out of the backfield to be that receiving starting role for Cook, I definitely see some upside with him alongside Damian Harris, who I'm not completely fading in drafts either. My next running back is a guy you're getting even cheaper than these other guys in drafts, Roschon Johnson for the Chicago Bears. Now, Johnson is not going to be the starter in week 1. That's going to be Khalil Herbert. I'm very confident Herbert is going to get the bulk of the work throughout the beginning of the year. Now, Roschon Johnson, I'm betting on him clearly from a talent perspective. At the University of Texas, the numbers were not great, but sitting behind Bijan Robinson, it's going to be hard for anyone to get on the field alongside such a talented player like Robinson. But in his limited touches, Roschon's efficiency was pretty much top tier in all of college football. On a per rush basis, he was second in the entire nation in forced missed tackles. Not only that, yards after contact, he ranked number 11 per rush. So when given the opportunity behind Bijan, he was still capitalizing on this and putting up some pretty productive and incredibly efficient numbers in Texas. At 6 foot 225, he definitely has the frame to be that goal line back in Chicago. Khalil Herbert could be more of the lightning to Roschon's thunder at the end of the year if he's able to carve out a role in this offense. Not only is Roschon have the ability to be that goal line back, he's also number 1 in the elusive rating in college football. So while the metrics from his efficiency numbers at the University of Texas were very good, I think it's a great stab in the dark at the end of the draft, getting a guy who has upside at the end of the season. Not necessarily somebody I'm banking on in the beginning of the year, but as the season unfolds, I expect him to work into Khalil Herbert's share in this offense on a team that looks to be one of the most run-heavy teams in the entire league. The last guy I want to talk about is Jaylen Warren, one of the most hyped-up backup running backs in fantasy football. I threw him on the list just because throughout the preseason and even at the end of the 2022 season, Warren has been one of the most efficient backs coming out to spill Najee Harris. The Steelers obviously want to run Najee into the ground as that workhorse running back, but when Warren's been given the opportunity, he's been so much more efficient than Harris. While I love Najee Harris as he's sliding in a lot of fantasy drafts due to that inefficiency, I'm still very excited about where Jaylen Warren's going in drafts. Given he's marked as the third most efficient runner in the preseason, carrying over from what he was doing in the 2022 year, scoring in back-to-back preseason games. As we get closer to the 2023 season, this backfield looks like it's becoming closer and closer to a 60-40, 55-45 split in Pittsburgh. So an obvious handcuff appeal, but a guy who also looks to get more and more touches as the season goes on, improve himself. Now, Jaylen Warren, definitely a guy I need to be looking at on my radar later in drafts, especially all Najee Harris owners attaching him as a handcuff. Now, those are my 5 running backs that I love drafting as sleepers, where they're going in current drafts. Right before the start of the 2023 season, we started off with Rachaad White for the Buccaneers, Brian Robinson, James Cook, and even Damian Harris. Both of those guys in Buffalo, I think, have appeal at their positions in drafts. Roschon Johnson for the Chicago Bears and Jaylen Warren on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Not to mention the Chicago Bears and Pittsburgh Steelers also have respectively the 6th and 8th easiest schedules this upcoming season. So a lot of run-heavy game scripts for these both teams coming into the year. Even more of a reason I like slamming these guys late in drafts. Let me know what y'all think of these 5 running back sleepers. If you're drafting them or if you're fading them, let me know. Hit the subscribe button and like the video. I really appreciate it. Let me know you guys are picking up on any of this information we're putting out there for draft season. That's all I got for this week. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys next week with another episode of The Fantasy Birds.